All right. Good evening.
Hi.
My name is D'Avia Contreras, and thank you for joining us on the first episode of our podcast. Our topic today will be change in behavior and behavioral patterns. Our presenter today will be Maria Bird West Wheeler, and I will hand it over so that she will start her presentation.
Hi. I hope everyone's doing well this evening. We're going to be talking about changing behaviors and behavior patterns uh, and understanding why behaviors happen. This is this is directed toward children, uh, addressing behaviors with children through the age of 5 years old. So the first thing we look at when we're changing behaviors is we look at something called the ABC model of behavior. And the ABC model of behavior is a scientific approach that's designed to modify and improve behavior. It provides a basic framework that we use in ABA for changing behaviors. It helps identify behavior events and patterns and other relevant factors, and it leads to more effective interventions. So, what is the ABC of behavior? A is for antecedent, stands for behavior, and C stands for consequence. So, you want to remember ABC when you're coming up with plans to address behaviors. You want to be sure and look at the antecedent that precedes the behavior, then the behavior, and then the consequence, ABC. So important when you're looking at antecedents, A, the event, situation, and the setting are all antecedents. And so when you're first looking for that A part of the equation, that event, situation, and the setting that occurred or was present before the behavior was evidenced is absolutely critical. And that's going to play a role in preventing behaviors that you don't want to see repeated in the future. It also can include surrounding conditions. Was it extremely hot whenever this child had a tantrum? Um, that sort of thing. B is the behavior itself. Then you look at the behavior itself separately. And the behavior is the observable action or response of the individual. It's not what you think they were trying to get or the outcome they wanted or something they were upset about. You want to actually look at the behavior you saw and heard. C is the response. It's that follows or the outcome that follows the behavior. And C stands for the consequence. It's consequence. A lot of people use that term as if it's like it's a punishment, something negative, but a consequence is anything that follows a behavior. So when we're analyzing a behavior, you want to review the behavior, review the conditions that preceded the behavior, then review what happened following the behavior. It is also important to analyze setting events, including the environmental conditions that were present before, during, and after the behavior, because those can contribute also. For example, was it hot and noisy before your child had a tantrum? Let's take a look at understanding why maladaptive behaviors occur with younger children. When your child engages in a non-preferred behavior, you want to always ask yourself the following questions. What do I want my child to do instead of the non-preferred behavior? If you don't know what you want your child to do instead of the non-preferred behavior, your child probably doesn't know that either. So you have to have a clear picture and think it through. What do I want them to do instead? Secondly, does my child know how to accurately and independently begin and complete the entire sequence of steps for the preferred behavior? If your child knows how to accurately do it, but they can't do it independently, then you can do some support, provide some supports to help them through that sequence of steps, and then say back that support. If they don't know how to do it, then that means, okay, we need to teach them the steps to doing the behavior and help them learn those steps. And lastly, is my child able to independently begin and complete that sequence of steps under the current conditions? Your child may be able to manage a situation and engage in an appropriate behavior in that typically, but under the current conditions, maybe they're tired, maybe they're sick, maybe they're hungry, maybe somebody else in the household just took their favorite toy. So now the conditions changed, and now all of a sudden that child might not be able to do that behavior that they could do under other conditions. So then when you're going to address that type of behavior, then you want to plan for and address the different conditions that commonly occur, especially the ones that tend to um, to result in maladaptive behaviors. Ideally, we want to prevent maladaptive behaviors. Um, a lot of times people will go ahead and let the behavior happen, the maladaptive behavior happen, and then correct it. For many children on the autism spectrum who learn sequentially, which is very common with children on the autism spectrum, they don't all learn sequentially, but if the child learns sequentially, they learn things in a certain specific order. And if you add on a correction, they're going to add the correction onto the sequence instead of seeing that as a way to prevent. So what you want to do is look at those prevention strategies and change that. So one of the first things you want to look at is what observable conditions occurred immediately prior to the behavior. What conditions can we change to decrease the maladaptive behaviors? Maybe your child needs to eat a snack before dinner time because the span between lunch and dinner is just too long, and that gives them a little more self-control. So what conditions can we change to increase related prosocial behavior? And a lot of times that not only can involves having those conditions in place for them to be able to make the effort it takes to do that behavior, that prosocial behavior. Sometimes there has to be some incentive to do that also. Then you can model, directly teach, practice, overlearn, and reinforce behaviors you want your child to do instead of the misbehavior. Every time your child engages in maladaptive behavior, they are practicing that maladaptive behavior, and it's guaranteed that it'll likely happen again. So you want to definitely look at all those conditions and including modeling the correct behaviors and directly provide the conditions your child needs to increase the related prosocial behaviors. One of the ways you can change those conditions to help your child be more successful is to use permanent visual prompts to decrease the frequent verbal prompts and to increase the independent use of prosocial behaviors. So it can be a picture or it's of the correct behavior to use, and you might have it posted at their eye level in the area where the maladaptive behavior occurs sometimes. It's just an example.
I have a question for you, Maria.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you provide an example of this with real behaviors that a parent might be having with one of their children and what antecedents we can set up okay, for example, let's say we had a child who was dealing with behaviors of elopement, and not just at home, but sometimes like when we're walking out and about and they're just eloping farther than safety allows. What is something that I can do to change the before to set my child up for success and not have those elopement behaviors?
So one of the things that you could do beforehand, and with it being something like elopement, I would definitely incorporate visual prompts because that gives you a gives the child a permanent reference that they can look at and they can focus their attention on. Um, so you would have to think of what is the replacement behavior I want the child to do instead of elope. I want them to run to me and I can help them. Or I want them to, if that's just not going to happen, say the child gets easily overstimulated and the last thing they want to do is be around another person, then you might, when you go anywhere out in the community and even at home, you could set it up so that you have a visual that goes in a certain location. It could just be a picture. It could be one of the little round seat things that you can sit on, this kind of rubbery, like rubber circle. And you place it wherever it is that is going to be that child's safe place to go to when they need to get away, but they can't tolerate being prompted verbally to go and sit somewhere else. So you kind of have to plan ahead and then provide those supports so that your child is more likely to be successful. And keep in mind, every time they're not successful, that is just increases the likelihood that the behavior is going to happen again. So visuals and rehearsal is super important. Does that answer your question?
And sure, that's the
Okay, great. Some children who have autism, for some children who have autism, errors that are followed by a correction is actually just a pro-social exchange. You're just having a back and forth conversation and they don't understand, or sometimes they understand, but they don't recognize that what you're doing is trying to correct an error. And so then it becomes I do something that makes you correct me, say something back to me, and then if I'm the child, and then I do something to make you say something else or do something else, and it just keeps going back and forth like a turn-taking event. And you really need to recognize that probably is exactly what's going on, and the child is trying to by making errors and being corrected, is trying to have an exchange of some sort of social exchange with you. So that means that you need to plan on meeting that need to provide that pro-social exchange so the child doesn't have to misbehave to get that input. And it could be some just times, some scheduled times in the day where you go, okay, so every hour I'm going to do this little social exchange with my child. And then that meets that need. Some children who have autism may not recognize or may misunderstand different types of social experiences. They may misunderstand or not recognize your expectations related to taking turns communicating with one another. They They may not recognize or understand the social implications of a verbal or physical correction. That to them, you're playing with them, or you're just taking turns. um, and they don't realize that, oh, you're trying to tell them that what they did wasn't correct or needs to be done differently. And these experiences include not only the verbalized content, but actually understanding the meaning of your tone or loudness of voice. Um, they doing or saying something that makes the adult change what they say or do is very powerful, and it oftentimes reinforces the maladaptive behaviors that preceded the adult's change in behavior. So in other words, I'm going to misbehave because then you change your behavior, and they don't understand the social implications of that. They just think that this is a turn taking event rather than, no, I'm trying to get you to do a different behavior. So, additionally, your implied expectation, they may not understand or even recognize your implied expectation when you present a verbal or physical correction. They may just think you're talking to them and trying to have a conversation. Um, or they may not understand that what you're saying about the correction, the behavior that's corrected, they may not recognize that as realize you're telling them to do it differently. So many times we imply what we're trying to say instead of being very direct with what we're communicating. And that's sometimes very challenging for our loved ones on the autism spectrum to understand. And finally, they may misunderstand that a verbal or physical correction, well, and that's exactly what I got through describing. It is not, they don't understand it's not a pro-social communication exchange. They think you're just having a conversation when you're actually, and you think you're correcting a behavior, and then all of a sudden the child does the same behavior over again. So when we're correcting behavior, you want to use what's called the ABC model of behavior. You you want to avoid acting one way, then expecting your child to act another way. So you want to model the behavior that you want your child to use. Do not expect your child to know the steps to performing the behavior. You demonstrate, and most of our loved ones who are on the autism spectrum need to be directly taught what to say and do when to use a particular behavior. And so you're going to demonstrate, directly teach, practice, so it becomes a habit behavior, and reinforce the preferred behavior. Example, if you want your child to put away their toys after playing, you want to use modeling and something called modeling and something called behavior momentum. And by doing that, by modeling and using an example of modeling and using behavior momentum would be you initially help put the toys away. In the beginning, you quickly put most of the toys in the toy box, and then you occasionally hand a toy to your child to put it away in the toy box if they're not joining in. You gradually increase the amount of toys your child is presented with to put away, and then you gradually fade out handing each toy to your child so that they're picking up the toy on their own. And you can even turn that into a little game by who's going to grab the toy to put away first.
We have a raised hand. Miss Christina, you got a question for us?
Yes, so I was wondering how you would model behaviors you don't want them to do. Like, so for instance, my son, he loves like opening cabinets and drawers, and I understand it's a sensory thing. However, he sees me opening cabinets because I need to get to stuff. So how would you model not a behavior he should be doing besides just child locks, of course.
Yes. Um, I would probably consider having some kind of a visual, because that's a really tough thing to observe and figure out for a lot of children. And I would probably provide a prompt, a visual prompt, and put it on the cabinets when it's not time to open the cabinets. And then like, and it could be a cute picture. It could be, it doesn't have to be anything, that sounds like a directive. And when the picture's on the cabinet door stays closed. It sounds like, with just what is happening, is he's reacting or responding to a visual stimulus. So then you change the visual stimulus whenever it's not an option. Or you can just put a thing on it, a sign on it that it depicts closed. Um, and then whenever it's time to open it, you can put the picture of open on it, and then you open it, but you're going to have to keep the pictures away from his reach, so that he can't go get the picture and put it on the cabinet door and then open the cabinet door. And you can, is he real is he verbal or auditory? Does he respond to what he hears said to him?
So he's only like 2.5, and so he's
Oh,
not
okay.
speaking yet, and so
Yes.
conversation is still something, but he is a very visual and just observant little
Okay.
baby. So I think that would
Uh-huh.
actually be very helpful. Thank you.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to gradually increase the amount of toys he's presented with to put away, and then gradually fade out, handing each toy to your child so that they're doing it more and more and more independently when you're trying to model that. Um, and then make sure your child always puts away the last toy, and then later the last few toys, until she or he are putting away all the toys. Reinforce verbally and are using first put toys away, then snack, or other naturally related reinforcers. Or if your child has a token system, you can give them a token to place on their token board. Okay, you want to provide permanent visual prompts. Don't want to present a visual prompt and then take it away. Like show them a picture and then take it away. You want your child to have a permanent referent to look at until the behavior's completed, and definitely at least until it's started. But I would leave it till it's completed. Um, it can be pictures. You can use a representational object. Um, you can use the picture schedule or a visual schedule, if that's what you're prompting is the steps to a schedule. But what happens when you provide a permanent visual prompt is it reduces the frequency of having to verbally prompt your child, and you're decreasing the possibility then that your child is doing this to have what to them is a conversational exchange by, I'm going to do this and you're going to say this, and I'm going to do this and you're going to say this. So it takes away that risk also, and it increases your child's independent initiation of tasks. It also permanent visual prompts, and you want to be sure to have it at their eye level. So that it not only increases their independent initiation of tasks, but their independent task completion. And then it decreases the risk of the child's misunderstanding of verbal and or physical corrections as pro-social exchanges. That happens more often than we realize, that when so you want to have that permanent visual prompt to correct and show the correct behavior to do instead. Then you can reinforce that when the child does it, instead of waiting for them to make a mistake and then correcting verbally, and then they think you're having a conversation.
Before you continue,
Yes, ma'am.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this Jamil Pardon me if I said that wrong.
Okay.
She said she has a daughter, and which is 5 years old, and she has been diagnosed with autism. She is a very picky eater,
Uh-huh.
in which she like if they give her food, she will not take it.
Uh-huh.
And we are looking for some advice on what we can do to help with the pickiness of eating.
Yes. Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay. So one of the things that you want to do is very, very, very gradually address that. Um, so when I've worked with feeding programs in the past, which I've done for many years, we we gradually introduce a food that is um, of a texture. You want to figure out whether it's a texture issue. Sometimes it's just something as simple as the color of the food, or if it's actually a taste issue. So if you can get some kind of a feel, what you can do is start kind of noting the foods that your child will eat and the foods that they won't eat or they've tried and would try again. And that you can see if you keep a kind of a running list of that, you can sometimes see a pattern. Sometimes it's texture, sometimes it's taste, sometimes you'll find like oh wait, it's just all the green foods. So you can, but you can definitely sit there and look at a pattern and look for that pattern. And then that pattern is what's going to lead you to coming up with an intervention. The one thing you don't want to do is to get in the mode that is sometimes recommended of forcing a child to eat something. Um, that just actually creates more fear and more resistance to eating to eating foods, and then sometimes that can even keep them from eating the foods that they were eating before. So, but yes, working with children who have very specific opinions about food, and very specific reactions, is that it's uh, a challenging process, but it can be addressed. It's just it's challenging for a trained therapist who specialize in feeding programs to deal with, and I couldn't imagine trying to deal with it myself as by myself as a parent. Um, so anyway, that you can probably
Something that might be a little more helpful when trying new foods is to reinforce with the foods that they already prefer. So if you're trying something new and you know that they really, really, really enjoy broccoli and you want to try to facilitate trying something new, it might be best to have the broccoli on standby. And once they give, they touch it, hey, nice job. Here's your piece of broccoli. They move it with their fork. Oh, great job. That was awesome. Here's a piece of broccoli. They put it to their lips. Oh, yeah, that's great. Here's another, like, just small reinforcement for taking those steps could lead to more success in the future.
Yeah, so that's a great example. It's just take it in little tiny baby steps and try to avoid force feeding anybody because you're now pairing the food up with being scared to death and uncomfortable. So okay, I think that's it.
You're on the last one.
That's why I provide
You're on the last one. Help meet child's physical age.
yes, I did have another. I knew I had one more to do. So the permanent visual prompts also helps meet the child's physical age level need for independent success. And it's super important to recognize that um, when a child has autism, they their need for independent success matches their real age, their real physical age, not their functioning age. So we need to set things up. So, and sometimes it means setting up little simple tasks and not having one great big task, but a whole bunch of small tasks so that they are able to independently complete a task, this little task, that independently complete that little task and that little task at their actual age level. And that will go a long ways to helping the child be more willing to try new things and to cooperate with activities. And thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to ask, or any other scenarios in which you would like insight?
Well, if you think of anything, give us a call, get in touch with us, and we will be happy to help. Thank you so much.
I did
Yes.
have I had a question for you guys, but it wasn't about the presentation. It was actually about y'all's business. So should I call about that, or could I ask you now?
If you want to wait until the end of the call when all other participants exit, I can go ahead and answer those questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? All righty. Well, we thank you very much for joining us on our Vera T podcast. And we hope you guys have a wonderful night. Oh, I see that you turned on your mic, Miss Caroline.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you for joining us. You have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, I see that we have a hand raised from our very office.
Oh, I was just clapping.
Yay! Thank you. All righty. Well, then we are going to end our call here. Miss Christina, if you want to hang me back for a moment so we can answer those questions for you. Whenever you're ready.
Alrighty.
Miss Christina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I really only had one question. So, my son, so like I said, he is 2.5, and he's actually in the process of getting evaluated for autism. Like we just did an ADOF at an ABC center. That's kind of redundant. Last week. However, I am going ahead and looking for potential places for him to do the ABA daycare, because I do have a feeling that where it's headed, like he's already in ECI and everything. So I was wondering if y'all's ABA daycare program accepts Medicaid.
We do not currently accept Medicaid. Do you have a secondary insurance?
I do not currently, and so I know a lot of places around here don't, but I just wanted to go ahead and ask you guys, because I was loving everything you were saying during the presentation. So I was like, let me double check.
Of course.
But that was my only question for you guys.
No, unfortunately, we're not taking Medicaid yet. Medicaid is just a whole beast on its own, and we just started off. So it's going to take a good 6 months to a year for us to get onto Medicaid, unfortunately. But we are working on that process.
Understood, yes. And I think it's because like Texas just recently added Medicaid, like autism care to Medicaid. So I understand it takes a minute for everyone to get caught up with that. But thank you guys again so much for the presentation, and I will be tuned in next week.
All righty. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yay, we did it.
And that's it. And it only lasted 35 minutes. And,
But that's good for families because they don't have a lot of time to spend. That's the perfect time.
Go ahead
What's
and
your name,
stop the recording.
Marion?
3 people on this call, but like
Hey,
there's
go ahead and stop the recording.